Okay, everybody, what we're going to go through today is under week 6, part 4, in creating that special cam multi-view practice drawing. So this is the first one that's going to kick off this section, and it's a relatively straightforward part, but it's important to follow these steps, I think, in allowing you a smooth transition into the rest of the section. So under week 6, part 4, you'll see what's called a B template. And that drawing should be downloaded and saved. And it'll come up as a blank file in model space, just like what you see here on your screen. Next, you'll see in the paper space tab, much like you did earlier in the case of the rocker arm drawing, an opportunity to label the sheet in paper space as you see fit. We'll wait on that and go ahead and do a save as right away, because we're going to go ahead and save this as the drawing special cam, which is in fact the drawing in question, as you're also working to Google Classroom in creating this part. So again, this is the part in question from slide 26 into our PowerPoint on multi-view drawings. It's pretty much self-defined here in terms of the front right top view. As we discussed earlier, this is predominantly what you're going to find most drawings comprised of, a front, a right, top view. And we're just going to draw this guy as you see it here on this slide. So I'm going to pull this over to my other screen and go ahead and get started in model space. So what I thought was an opportunity here was to start this drawing at 0, 0, just to reiterate a starting point that coincides with our sheet. So if you go line and then you type 0, 0, you're going to see a line banding from 0, 0. As you may recall from our JPEG, we have a 5 1/8 or 5.13 length, and then a 3-inch height. So I'm going to start drawing this front view relative to this lower left-hand corner, and then I'm going to draw a right view and a top view that are aligned with that front view. And in doing so, I'm going to work counterclockwise. So that move crosses 5.13 and hit the top in your view cube just to expand. And again, what we're going to do is we're going to just start working our way around the drawing. And while I'm working in the absolute chords, I can work dynamically by just going tracking and typing in the value, 2 inches to that leg. Now, you have a decision to make here. You can work with the known commodity down here, or you can just type the incremental move to get to this angle point. I'm going to terminate the line command, hit enter again, and start. And remember, always make sure that your object snaps are set according to what you want to pick off on. I want to pick off on this endpoint, so I wanted to make sure that my endpoint was selected in object snaps, which is again down here in that blue square area. And then if I come up, I know from my drawing that that's 1.75. So type that in. Now you could argue that you don't know the right-left move to go, or the angular move, I should say, to go from either one of these endpoints. But you do know both the start point and the finish point of this straight line. You could do the math and you come up with the incremental move to get to the delta x, delta y in either one of these two angled lines. But let's just go with one route, and that is to just pick up on this point at an absolute chord of 1.63, 3, and then come across the difference, which is, if you do the math, 2.5 inches from point to point. So 1.63, 3, and let's type that in, 1.63, comma 3, and then like we said we're going to go cardinal 2.5. Now I can F8 to take ortho off and finish completing this, the front view, at least in terms of the perimeter. Now we also have a hole in this block, and I know it by way of the positioning off of XY00, and I know it off the diameter. So I'm going to go choose center diameter, and I'm going to actually type my coordinate point, or the center point of the circle, as just off the print. Again, I'm not doing anything other than taking this off the print. 2.88, comma 1.5, enter, and then again off the print 2.22 diameter. So that's my front view. It doesn't look exactly like this picture does, but again, we're working with these values, and these values supersede that of what you're scaling here in terms of a view. Next, we're going to create this center mark. We're going to project the right and then the top view, and then we're going to call it a drawing once we've popped in these dimensions. So again, drag this back. I'm dragging this back over. You'll never have to do this because you've got two monitors. And first order of business is I'm going to put that center mark in that I just showed you that depicts the center of the hole. Switch your layers to center lines by hitting that down arrow. Then come over here to the Annotate tab and hit Center Mark. Choose it. Go back to the Home Horizontal Ribbon tab, go to Object Lines. And now what I want to do next is I want to draw in my right view. Now I've established just in advance that I want my right view and my top view to be 2 inches spaced out from the front view. So watch carefully how that works. With your object snap setting tracking on, which they should be as a result of the template file, under object snap, make sure that object snap is on with an F3, or an object snap tracking is on with an F11, or just by checking this radio box. Now watch what happens. If I go to Object Lines layer and I click the line command and I hover here without clicking on my mouse, but just hovering with my mouse, and then I drag over, as long as I see that green dotted line, I can type 2, and I've just started a line whose endpoint is 2 inches removed from that corner point. It's exactly what I want. Now, because my top view on the drawing in question shows a 2-inch depth, that means my depth on my right view, of course, has to be 2 inches also. So just type 2, and then come up. Now, a lot of people would say, well, why not just type hit F8 so you're cardinaling north, and why not just type 3 because we know the height is 3 from our earlier view? Well, I just want to show you how you can hover over that corner point, come over, and see how it's tracking to the height. It's also showing up as 3. But regardless, if you don't want to remember the numbers, just track. Now if I click and I hover over here, same thing. My tracking line tells me that I'm perpendicular to the line I just created, and I'm creating a perfect rectangle. Enter. Enter to close the command. So this is a 2-inch representation of the front view. The only purpose this view holds is to show the depth of this front view. But we need to include hidden lines that depict the hole in this center, or in this right view, as well as a center line. Now I'm not going to go back to the reference drawing, because the reference drawing intentionally does not show the hole hidden in either the top or the right view, but we know from having studied multi-view drawings already that both do. So go to the Home tab, change your object lines current layer to hidden lines, hit the line command, and if you don't have quadrant on, go to the blue square and make sure quadrant is checked as a snap point. or snap mode. And then come over here with the line command and hover over the top quadrant, second quadrant, whatever quadrant that might be relative to the circle, and then band to the right until you get the X. That tells me that I'm going to begin a line in my right view that's going to show the top diameter line of the circle in my right view. I have perpendicular as a snap. If you don't have it, make sure that it's in there, and then that will allow you to, as I drag over to the right, click with the left mouse button and terminate the line right at that perpendicular mode. Hit enter again, do the same to the bottom. Just like so, as easy as that. Now, under the annotate, or first change your layer to center lines, go to the annotate command, and now as opposed to doing a center mark, you're going to perform a center line, which is going to determine symmetry between two object lines that depict a hole, in this case. Could be a slot, in this case it's a hole. By picking the two of them beneath that command, you place a center line directly at the halfway point, depicting symmetry, but also, more just as importantly, they extend past the object lines by definition of 1/8. Similarly, we can go ahead and change our object back to our object layer and create a top view in much the same way. To start off with, come up 3 and start to work your way around. 2, 2. The reason I knew this was 3 is because this is a 45, and since this distance is 1, this has to be 1. So I just did the math. 1 plus 2 is 3. So you've got a 2-inch gap here and 2-inch gap here. And you got a rectangle that matches the width of that of the front view and matches the depth with that of the right view. So similar to what happened with the right view, you now have to pass lines, only you're going to have 2 visible lines to go along with 2 hidden lines and the center line for symmetry. The reason why you need the solid lines or object lines is because, unlike the right view, actually I take that back, you also have one in the right view where 2 lines or 2 surfaces converge, they form a line. This forms a solid line right here. We skip that. And we also have a solid line formed in the top view where these 2 lines converge. You see that? And all I'm doing in creating them is hovering over that intersection point, coming up to meet my top view. Similar to what we did with the right view in creating the hole shown in the side view, we're going to go to our hidden line layer, create lines, and then pick up quadrants to create our hole. And then lastly, center line, annotate, symmetry between the 2 hidden lines. Perfectly done. Now if you go to Paperspace and you click, you'll notice your drawings are on the sheet of paper and they're centered fairly well. What I want you to do next is dimension the drawing to the best of your ability to where it looks like that in which the slide shows. But I believe that is enough to get you started. If you have any questions on this or on any of the dimensioning that pretty much takes place under the dimension layer, and just by picking linear and radius dimensions while you're at it, let me know. Otherwise, that will wrap up this lesson, and from here we'll have no problem moving forward with the additional problems. Thank you very much for your attention, and good luck.